Hey everyone, it's Elton here, Grumpy Kid. So one of the questions I had, and one of the things I was researching before I undertook van life, was how much it was going to cost to live the van life. Now that I've been on the road for about just over 5 months, I believe, I feel like I can give some advice or some guidance on how much things cost. So really, it's a fairly loaded question, because how much it costs really depends on your needs. So, for example, I work from the road, so I do photography, web design, and social media management, amongst other things. I also do training on social media platforms and stuff like that. So basically, I need access to, well, two things. One, good data signal, and two, reliable source of power. So in the summertime, so I've got 2 panels on my van, 200 watts, and 2 leisure batteries. I believe they are 90 amp an hour batteries, 2 of them, so 180 amp an hour in total. And with that setup during the summer, I was able to work and do all what I needed to do without being hooked up to electric for about 3 to 4 weeks. And that obviously does depend on the weather conditions. There was a time in the summer where for several weeks in a row we had sunshine, which was great. But yeah, so it really does depend on your requirements for power, and your willingness to wild park, as it were, and stealth parking. In another video I made a while back, I mentioned how the difficulty with wild camping or stealth camping with animals. If you're on your own, it's quite feasible to go and park even in a residential street, if you can be stealthy and just remain in your van for the night and then set off early in the morning. It's not a problem. However, obviously with a pet, you've got to take it out every now and then to do its business. So stealth parking can be a problem. Obviously for a lot of people, especially solo female travelers, they may not feel safe just parking up anywhere. So it really does depend, I suppose, on what your requirements are. Do you need electrical hookup because you work from your van, you work from the road? Are you just going to go flat out for, do you have a predetermined time span that you're doing van life for, and you've got the finances to cover you for that period, in which case, and you're not working from the road, then you can just wild camp as much as you like, if that is something you feel safe and secure doing. So typically I've primarily been staying in campsites, and that's for the reason that I have an elderly dog who needs to go out quite often and things like that. So I'm just not comfortable yet stealth parking. I am going to try a few stops on the way, because I'm traveling along the coast now. So I'm hoping that there are some places along the coastline where I can stop securely overnight, where it does seem safe to do so. You get apps like Park for Night and Search for Sites, etc., which are wonderful and great, but they also have their downside. The downside being, for example, that a lot of the places that were once free to park are now either charging, or they have very clear signs saying no overnight stay. So whilst those apps are great, and if you're new to this world of van life and looking for places to park, it's also got the downside where councils are now clamping down on this behavior. And also what it means is that anyone with dodgy intentions could also be using these apps and finding out where people are likely to go and spend the night. So yeah, it's got its pros and cons. For me personally, I'm probably not going to make if I do find spots that aren't already on these apps, I'm probably going to keep it to myself, to be fair, because I can just see, in the not too distant future, that most of these places that are currently free or secure are not going to be that way in the future. So England is a bit odd in that respect. They seem to really dislike people, van lifers, or people living in their vehicles. They make it very difficult in England, unlike Scotland, where they're very welcoming of it. And as long as keeping to yourself and not being an obstruction to other people, you're pretty much able to camp anywhere and stop over at night anywhere. So I am looking forward to getting to Scotland, having a bit more freedom and security, and knowing that I'm not going to be chased on ridiculous o'clock in the morning. So yeah, back to the point. Just went off on a tangent there. So how much does van life cost? Well, as I say, it's really down to you. If you're happy to sleep in these free overnight parking spots or lay-bys and truck stops and Brit stops, etc. Some pubs allow you to stay in the car park overnight if you have a meal or a drink in the pub. Then obviously you can do things, your accommodation costs can be quite low. If you're more like me, where you need power and you need that security of uninterrupted power to deliver your work and your client projects, then typically you're looking at campsite fees. I have a personal limit of £15 a night. That's the maximum I will pay, and that's with electrical hookup. And there are quite a few sites around that fall into that price range. If you're not looking for electrical hookup, then you can find sites from £7.50 to around £10 a night. So if you were on a site every night of the week for a month, you're looking at about £300 ish, no electrical hookup, or around £450 if you got that £15 cut off, £450 a month with electrical hookup. Then obviously over and above that, and what I would say is probably the biggest cost for me if I were to travel every day is fuel, which is why if you've got a 6-month or a year plan, and that's how long you're going to be traveling for, and you've got the finances to cover you for that, then yeah, you can travel on and move on every day of the week, and wake up in a new location every day. However, if like me you are doing this indefinitely, it's not feasible to drive every single day and move to a new spot every single day, because fuel consumption on a van and a 3.5 ton vehicle of this size is not great. And traveling every single day would just put a massive dent in the finances. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't move every day, because I just simply don't have the finances right now in place to be confident to do that with the costs involved. So my van typically gets around 27-30 miles per gallon maximum, which is not great, and especially with the prices of diesel continually going up, that's probably going to be a big expense for you. So bear that in mind. Bear in mind, if you're going to be traveling every day and you're doing 50 to 100 miles on a daily basis, you're going to be using a lot of petrol or diesel, sorry. So that's something to factor in. Do you have the finances in place to be able to travel every day? Figure out your route. How many miles is that? What's that going to work out to? How many miles does your van get on average miles per gallon? And work out what your route's going to cost you in fuel. Then the other expenses are things like gas. So I have a 30 litre tank, underslung tank on my van, which, because you can only fill them up to 80%, I believe I get around, about 24, 22 litres in my tank. So on that, in the summertime, in the summertime, obviously all I'm using my gas for is to run my fridge and the hob when necessary to cook. And I was getting around 5 to 6 weeks for my tank in the summer. In the winter, it's a different story, because obviously I'm running the heating. So typically now I'm getting around 2 to 3 weeks from the tank during the winter time. Gas LPG is fairly cheap still, so some places it's 59p a litre, other places you can pay as much as 89p a litre, but it's still considerably cheaper than diesel. But I will be making a separate video comparing diesel heaters to gas heating, and for your information basically. So that's the gas, and then the other cost is obviously your food. And that's going to be down to your dietary requirements, what you eat, or do you shop at Marks and Spencer, or like me, do you shop at Aldi and Lidl? So really, I guess it's hard to give you an exact figure of how much van life costs per month, because it really is down to you as an individual, or as a couple, or as a family. Your requirements. As I say, do you need to be on a site and have electrical hookup all the time because you work from your van? In the winter, I can tell you now, solar panels are pretty pointless. And again, I will be creating a separate video on this subject. So don't rely on solar panels in the winter time. If you work from your van, you are likely going to need to hook up at least 3 times a week just to replenish your batteries. So bear that in mind, folks. I would say for me, staying on campsites primarily at the moment, my food, my fuel, etc., I'm probably looking at around £700 to £800 a month as a maximum. I wouldn't say it's more than that. So yeah, I hope that gives you some kind of idea and things to kind of consider before you set off, or to, if you're planning whether van life is suitable for you and if it's something you can achieve. If you've got any questions about van life, cost of living, etc., please comment below. And I'm going to do that salesy bit now, where I'm going to beg you to please like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what kind of content you would like to see. If you've got any questions about van life in England primarily at the moment, and the UK, of anything I can help with, because I had a lot of questions when I first started exploring this option, and I'm sure you do too. So I'm here to assist where I can. So yeah. Alright folks, I hope that's been informative. I know it's kind of boring watching me sitting in my van, talking to you, lecturing you. I have been out today, I have recorded some videos, so I do hope to get out a bit more. The winter isn't great here in England. It was been raining for the past few days, so today was a bit of a sunny day, so I made most of it and got out. But yeah, I will be posting more regularly, hopefully, now that all my woes are sorted with the van. And yeah, I'll see you on the road, for people. See you later. Bye bye.